When the summertime blues come, I hope I can look back on early spring and remember. I didn't fight. I simply did what I knew I had to do. Hello and welcome. This is Self-Control, How to Build a Better Life, the podcast that will inspire you to take control of your mind and your mindset, to go forward and build the life that you deserve to live, the life that you want to live. And the more I do this podcast, the more I think about it, it could be that for many of us, or all of us, a better life is not so far away. In fact, it may be right here in the present if we're willing to take control and come to terms with who we are in the moment. And the line that I just opened the show with was actually something that I wrote in my journal back on March 31st of this year. And so here I am now as we approach the height of summer, and those summertime blues can sometimes overtake me. And it was kind of nice to come across that line, to remember that when things were going very well for me, it was because I was simply doing what I knew I needed to do. I wasn't struggling, and I was just doing the minimum effective amount of what was right. I wanted to bring this up and start today because in reading those journals, I also find that I just have wild energy swings, right? There's days when I'm super productive. There's days when I'm driven to do the things I need to do, to show up for people, to show up for myself. And then there's days when it's just an embarrassment. I'm napping. I can't get my ass in gear. I'm not getting the things done that I need to do. I'm circling things in the planner that didn't get done and having to move on. And then the day comes to an end and, I feel like I didn't have much to show for it. So, I think if you're like me and you find that there are days where you're unproductive, but then there's days where you're more productive, right? Or if there's days where your productivity seems to vary wildly throughout the day. And we could talk about productivity, we could talk about energy, and energy is really the core of what I want to talk about today. If you find some days you can focus and some days you can't, right? If you find that some days you're highly motivated and highly disciplined to get things done, and then there's days when you're not, right? If you look back on your life and you feel a sense of inconsistency, or if you feel that it's more down days, more unproductive days, more days of procrastination than not, and if that inconsistency then is starting to lead to frustration, right? If there starts to now be an emotional component where it's like, man, some days I just can't get it going, or this year I can't get it going, or the last 10 years I can't get it going, and I'm starting to beat myself up about not getting things done. I've been given all this time, right? We've been given a whole life if we're lucky, and I don't have anything to show for it, or I have little to show for it, and you start to feel overwhelmed. You start to feel anxious. You start to feel depressed. I've had those moments as well, and I want to share with you today some solutions, I think, for those energy swings or that inconsistency that happens in life. But I want you first to ask yourself a couple of questions. Does it need to be this way? Ask yourself that inconsistency, that unproductivity that seems to come and go, that procrastination, that lack of willpower, that chaos that comes into our life when we're not in control. Does it need to be that way? And ask yourself, if I keep going the way I'm going, will it get better? If I keep going the way I'm going, will it get better? Or will I accept this invitation to know myself deeper and to grow? Because we have to remember, if we don't accept these challenges, right? Like there's difficulty in our life. We're not getting the outcomes we want. That is an invitation to grow. That is an invitation to come to know ourselves. So ask yourself now, will I accept that invitation to grow? Because if I don't, I'll likely remain where I am, struggling, inconsistent, negative emotional outcomes, right? Feeling bad about who I am and what I'm doing. Wondering, why am I here? How did I get here, right? When we have this inconsistency, we get to a place where we're not sure why we even are where we are. I'm not in control, so how did I get myself here? Tired, frustrated. Life feels like chaos. We feel out of control and we risk feeling like a failure. That's what's at stake here. We're not talking about the ebb and flow of life where some days are good and some days are bad. That's the nature of life. We don't want to confuse that too much. But if there are wild swings in your mood, wild swings in your ability, wild swings in who you even are, right? If you seem to be one person from one day to the next, what's at stake here is feeling like a failure. And when we get into that hole of feeling like a failure, sometimes it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and we keep rolling ourselves into that hole. So if you're ready for a boost of energy, if you want to take back control of your life, to start having some consistency, right? Let's string together a month's worth of productive days, of days where we feel good about going into the world as a parent, as a father, as a son, as a teacher, as a learner, as a student, as whoever we are, whoever we come to the world as. If you want to consistently be that person, consistently show up for others, consistently feel a higher sense of self-esteem, I want to share with you the process that I've been working on because I've gone through it too. I think I've been able to put it into words. So a little bit of energy, a little bit of a kick in the ass, and a little bit of consistency coming your way. Let's go. So let's focus in on this concept of energy. And we can talk about what energy is, but I'm not super interested. There's a lot of definitions. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. But, suffice it to say, if you feel like you have low energy, then you know what we're talking about. You feel tired. You feel a lack of willpower, a lack of desire to do things. You don't show up as your best self. You don't show up for others. You don't accomplish things. You procrastinate. You put things off. It's time for us now to become aware, or to become to become honest about the things in our life that are preventing us from having the energy we desire, right? What in your life is creating an energy debt? For me, a big one for many years was marijuana. Marijuana, it's great to help you fall asleep. Turns out it doesn't really help very well with the quality of your sleep. It can, of course, there's the high and the crash, right? So that really hurts productivity. And over time, it's not a rumor. It's not a conspiracy theory, I don't believe. For most people, long-term use of marijuana really squirrels you out. It makes you amotivational. I think it took me away from my self-knowing. It took me away from myself. I'm spending all this time high and all this time wishing I was high. Some people are probably more responsible users than that, but suffice it to say, marijuana was an energy debt in my life. So was pornography and the behavior that goes along with pornography. Those things give you a gigantic surge of dopamine, right? And when you are giving yourself these big surges of dopamine through artificial means like pornography or junk food or social media on your phone, it becomes harder to appreciate hard-earned or real dopamine that we get from exercise or accomplishing a goal or taking on a challenge. So when I look back on my life, I realized how chiefly marijuana and pornography were major energy debts, or they put me into an energy debt, right? They were energy vampires. They sucked the energy out of me, or they impaired me from producing the energy that I needed, right? Because I'm doing these behaviors chronically and I'm not showing up as the person that I need to be, right? I'm tired, I'm sluggish, I'm not motivated, I don't have clear goals. That a lot of that was because of the lifestyle I got into with cheap dopamine and essentially drug addiction. So, for you, it could be those same things, or it could be something that feels even simpler. It could be the fact that you're not sleeping well. Perhaps you're not committing to hydration. You're eating poorly, maybe. Stimulants, right? Caffeine, nicotine. Sedentary lifestyle, not moving, or perhaps you're moving too much, right? Over-exercising and not recovering. All the sort of behavioral lifestyle factors that contribute to energy, you can do the research for yourself, and you can look at yourself in the mirror and look at your own life and decide those for yourself. I'm just trying to paint a picture for you. So many things that we do that are energy drains. They put us into an energy debt, right? They take the energy from us that we so need. Now, of course, I can't just tell you to stop, right? It'd be ridiculous for me to say, oh, you have low energy? Well, there's probably things in your life that are giving you low energy. You should stop. I can only encourage you to foster and grow the awareness of these things, right? If you're drinking, smoking, or doing drugs, you're not sleeping, you're numbing yourself by staring into your phone and staring into Netflix every night. You're putting off important conversations. You're not orienting yourself towards higher future, a higher goal. And I've been there myself, so I'm well acquainted with it. You may have some varying degree of awareness about it. I can't tell you to change. I can't tell you to stop. There's likely a reason why you're choosing to numb yourself with these behaviors. If it's trauma or you have situations in your life that you're trying to ignore and escape from, there's a pain that you're trying to kill. I've done episodes on that. Today is not the time. I simply want to encourage an awareness of the things that are draining your energy, the things that are putting you into an energy debt. Let me simply say, don't seek to change. Don't seek to change for change's sake. Seek to become aware or to understand that you have an energy debt in your life, right? Call it out for what it is. It's easy to mope through life and say, well, I can't get her going today. I can't seem to figure it out. I don't know. I'm tired. Tomorrow I'll put it off, blah, blah, blah. And then to crucify yourself and say, well, I wish it wasn't this way. Right. We all do that. I'm encouraging you here to call out and become aware that the energy debt exists in your life. And that's the first step. It's not to change. It's not to beat yourself up. It's just to become aware, to get it out in front of you for what it is and say, there are things that I'm doing that are sucking my energy. There are things that I'm doing that are not allowing me to produce the energy that I need, period. Now, I've talked many, many hours on this show probably about the importance of journaling. Keeping a journal, record your movements. And if you would rather do voice notes on your phone, you'd rather do videos on your phone. All my systems that I'm presenting to you, because they're the things that I've done in my personal life, they're predicated on the idea of record keeping, right? Of journaling and going back and reading it. So I'm not going to go too deep into journaling. I encourage you to find some other journaling episodes that I've done, but suffice it to say, keep track of your movements. Keep track of what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're consuming. And don't be afraid. In fact, you must go back then and read those thoughts, read those writings, because that's when you become acutely aware. You become very aware at the scope of your energy debt. Like when I decided I had to quit pornography, it was because of reading some months worth of my life and realizing, look at what that's doing to me. I have to start to quit that behavior once I saw the scope of what the problem was, once I became aware of how it was an energy drain in my life. So if you're ready to move forward, let's go on to the sort of second step in this process. We've become aware of our energy debt. We're calling it out for what it is, and we're looking at the things in our life that are affecting our energy. What I did for myself around this time that I was starting to root out pornography and poor diet and marijuana, I created a system of values for myself. And I'm not going to read you off all my values. What I want to instead do is encourage you to develop your own set of values. And if you're somebody with a strong set of values, you probably don't even have these problems, right? I would bet that if you're here because you have low energy, you also have a lack of values. What do you stand for? Those values come up and lift us away from the things that suck us of our energy. So let me just put it to you this way. Sit down and write down, you're journaling about the problems that you have, the energy debt, right? On a separate page, also take some time to think about your values. And I want you to ask yourself this question. What's important to me? Now be selfish here. Of course, there's your whole life. There's work, there's commitments, there's all the things you need to do. Let's take a minute now for you. What's important to me? Because at the end of the day, you have to put yourself first if you're having these problems. We can't help others. We can't be our best at work, in family life, in community life, if we're ignoring the fact that we have an energy debt. How can we give to the community? How can we give to others if we are not creating even enough energy for ourselves? If we don't have the desire to show up a certain way, if we don't have the desire to get things done internally, that fire is not burning within us, how can we lead? How can we support others? At the end of the day, you are going to have to care about yourself to want to show up better and better, or at least, like I said before, you have to care enough about yourself to come to terms with who you are right now in the moment and understand yourself and take stock of what it is you're doing. And so if creating values is a huge thing, like that could be a course all on its own. So let me give you one for free because you're still here as a thank you. If you're struggling with creating your own values, here's the first one that you need. I value my energy. Say it with me. I value my energy. And of course, it's not going to change overnight, But here's a chance where if life feels out of control, right? There's things going on that seem to be out of your control. Things are just happening. Because of that lack of energy, we've gotten ourselves into a position where we're not fully in control. We're not living the life we want to live. Here's a chance to take a small amount of control and say, this is what matters to me. This is what I value. My energy. Your belief in the importance of your energy becomes something that you have complete control over. I believe in the importance of energy because you now know what it feels like, and you know very well what it feels like to have low energy, right? Days and days of not getting things done, not going out socializing, putting things off, procrastinating, being lazy, and then beating yourself up about it. So you know then the importance of energy. God, if I just had some energy. So whatever energy I do have, I value. I value my energy, right? I don't want to be tired anymore. I don't want to be unproductive anymore. I want to be able to focus. I want to be able to concentrate, take on challenges, stop procrastinating. I want to feel free, and I want to take on a new challenge. Well, here's a challenge for you. Challenge number 1, the only challenge this show has ever really offered anybody, the challenge of self-control. Right? So now we see how we can tie together the idea of the things that are putting us into an energy debt and the things that matter to us. I value my energy, so I don't drink. But it doesn't even have to be that simple. It can be, I know that drinking is leading me into an energy debt. It's giving me outcomes that I don't want. I value my energy. My project now is to reclaim the energy that's being stolen by drinking. It might take years, right? Like, I value my energy, and I know that I'm in a toxic relationship with Tina or Chris or Stefan. So I need to start the process of getting away from Tina or Chris or Stefan or all three. Me personally, right? I started to see life is not going the way I want it to go. I don't have the energy that I need to have to get where I want to get. I think pornography and marijuana are the two culprits. Look, it took me 5 years to quit marijuana. It took me 15 years of pornography addiction before I went into the 4-year process of quitting. It's not going to happen overnight. And that's why what I'm proposing here is something like, I'm going to use a real fancy friggin' term that I came up with, metapraxis. metapraxis. What I mean by that, it's an overarching set of values. It's how we do everything. And for me, I made the energy that overarching practice. Everything I do is dedicated or devoted to preserving or maintaining or increasing my energy. So there's ways that you can show up in the world as a father, as a leader, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a student, as anybody, whatever you bring to the world. That's how you show up, and there's all the fine details in there as a teammate, as a coach. There's fine details in there that are based on what it is you're doing, but this is the overarching where we say my metapraxis, my value system is built on preserving my energy. So I don't do the things that take from my energy because then I can't do all the things I want to do. I privilege the things that give me energy, right? Proper sleep, proper diet, proper hydration, getting off the phone, getting out of the digital world and into the real world, having productive relationships, cutting out toxic relationships. But it's easy for me to say all this, but you have to realize this metapraxis, this value system that is based on energy is a lifelong process, right? Like I said, it took me years to quit the things that were killing me. It's going to take you years to get out of the hole probably as well. But now we see that I'm acutely aware of where my energy is going and how it's being wasted. Now my mission, right? You're unfocused, you're unproductive. Well, that's because you don't know what to do. I'm suggesting now here's the most important thing to do. Live your values. And if you have energy problems, your values should be directly tied to your energy. So now, in a sense, you have a map for a way forward. I saw an interesting meme. Actually, it was a friend of mine who's been on this podcast before, Jahan Sator. He said that in his practice as a counselor, as a therapist, almost always, if not 100% of the time, people with depression, people with anxiety, are also those who have not oriented themselves towards the future, are people that do not have a positive vision for their future. So no doubt we'd be depressed and anxious. Here's a map towards a better future. And I even think that this idea of going towards better and change, can be somewhat counterproductive. But of course, we want to envision a better life for ourselves coming down the road. But it could also be that we can start to do those things right now in the moment. That better life can begin right now in the moment. Undertaking the work of creating a value system that says, I value my energy. I want to be there. I want to have desire. I want to have willpower. I want to have focus and concentration and the ability to create. It's time for me to look at the things that aren't allowing me to do that. I believe as a human being, I am owed, I am granted, I am gifted an energy. I need to cultivate it, and I need to look at the things that are stealing from me. And we can do that right now in the present. It's not some far-flung better life. I'll have to change the name of this show. It's not out there. It's right here. And it begins when we take stock, when we look within and we decide, I'm going to come to terms with who I am right now. I'm going to think about what's important to me, and I'm going to start to live that way. This is the process that I'm undertaking for myself. Seeing the things that are stealing my energy, stealing the things that are leading me off track, and realizing that I care enough to start the process of looking at it, right? I can't tell you how to quit alcohol. Maybe it looks like, look, I value my energy, so I don't want to drink, so I drink one less. I go to a meeting, I talk to somebody, I try, and maybe it's 15 years. But that's the start, because this project now is so deeply personal to you that you'll want to work on it every day. So I recently saw an interesting meme or a tweet that said the goal or the quest or the living of a spiritual life is not to become something, but it's to become nothing. And so that's something like, ego dissolution and enlightenment and reaching a place where we're not emotionally connected to our thoughts, where our thoughts can come and go, our feelings can come and go without overwhelming us. But I think before we can ever hope to, get ourselves to that amount of enlightenment, we need to come to terms with what's going on here in the now. Not an obsession with the future, not an obsession with the past, and thinking, look, if life is not going the way I want it to go in the moment, forget the future, forget the past. I need to come to terms with the here and now. And to me, it looks like starting to create a value system, right? You can focus on enlightenment and becoming nothing. That sounds like a great pursuit. I hope I get there by the time I'm 112. But here in the now, I'm still becoming something. I'm still becoming in line with my energy, allowing my spirit to express itself. And that's what I would hope for you as well. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Please feel free to get in touch through Facebook or Instagram. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please remember, as you go through your value creation and your energy quest, better is possible.